Hello and welcome back to the channel for another College TF review. Today we'll be taking a look at the second Star Wars Vintage Collection figure that I've picked up, and he's from the Mandalorian series, that being Moff Gideon. As always, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you like my videos and want to stay up to date on the latest releases. Also hit that notification bell. And as always, I put the link in the description to all the figures that I pick up. And so this one I got over at my local toy store, that being All Time Toy Store. Please be sure to check them out online, and if you're local, pick them up in store. Alright, so this is a fantastic figure, another great one from the Star Wars Vintage Collection line. And I think definitely a must-have for any Mandalorian fans, especially because of this accessory right here, that being the Dark Star Saber, the Black Dark Saber, whatever you want to call it. Between Transformers and Star Wars, definitely gets a little confusing, but you know, Dark Star Saber. So this is Moff Gideon, and he is definitely pretty evil antagonist in the show. He's a pretty good embodiment of what it means to be, I think, an Imperial officer. He's a pretty rough guy. But yeah, this is, I think, a fantastic, I mean, this looks just like the actor, you know, just putting it here and, you know, add in some nice background, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between, you know, this toy and an actual actor. I think it's pretty incredible. And this guy, again, he's 3 3/4 inches roughly, so that's pretty insane. So setting his awesome accessory off to the side, we'll come back to that in a minute. Just take a look at that face sculpt, and I mean, look at that, that's insane. And this is using, I think, Hasbro's new, it's like a video face sculpt system that can make, you know, much more accurate both face sculpts and the actual paint itself. And that's how I think it's, you know, kind of the selfie series, it's similar technology to that. So yeah, that turned out insane. Looks just like the actor. Very nice. And then got nice armor throughout. And he's got kind of this glossier finish on that armor, as we see in the show. Very nice waist belt. And most of this is just molded plastic, looks like, but he does have a fair amount of paint. You know, we got that red stripe going on there. I think there is some plastic here. Pull off his cape for a second. Just get a better look at the figure himself. Yeah, looks very nice. Again, that slot there is just for the cape, but honestly, given that he's an all-black figure, that's actually not that noticeable if you want to use him without the cape. There's that printing there that's a little bit annoying. It's silver, but not a big drawback. He does have like this rubbery plastic for his skirt there, and for the shoulder pads to get some movement. So while we have all of his accessories at -1, which we'll get into in a minute, set aside, you can work on articulation here. So just take a look at his articulation. So at the head, we do get a ball joint, swivel side to side, and then you can also do the rock. I just think it looks so insanely realistic. I mean, that's just incredible. And then at the shoulders, we do get really good motion there because of the way this hinges out. So very good articulation of the shoulders, and then just can forwards, backwards, right? It's just it's a swivel and a pin joint in there, so nice and solid. And then we do get nice past 90 at the elbow, along with a wrist swivel. And then there also is a little upward and downward joint there in the wrist. It is a bit hard to use on these tiny figures, but oops, if you do want to really try, you can kind of get it bending down a little bit or bending up, which is just useful for, I guess, some of the sword poses or using bigger guns. Yeah, and then the other arm is all the same articulation, same wrist joint and everything. The only difference between the two arms, of course, is this hand has that trigger finger, whereas this one's more just like a cup shape, but still very natural looking. Then at the abdomen, we get lots of articulation. We get the side-to-side rock here. We do get an ab crunch forward and backwards to a pretty good degree, which is like a very natural degree is what I would say. And then we do get a rotation here. And then at the legs, again, like with the Mandalorian figure that I've reviewed on the channel, the leg articulation leaves a little bit to be desired in these tiny figures. It's very hard to use, but you can get the motion, I would say, that you need out of them. You can't quite do a full split, but I would say mainly it's just his forward and backward articulation is a bit impaired. It's more enough to get him into like a running pose, which I guess is all you really need out of the legs. Then he does have, I think, an upper thigh swivel here, and a nice bend there at the knee. And I really like how they hide it on these figures with the way the pants and stuff are designed. You know, it covers up really nicely. It doesn't look like a joint. It looks like a knee. It sounds kind of weird to say, but you know what I mean. And then we also get a forward and backwards here at the foot. You can definitely go back to a great degree and go forward a pretty good degree. And then a nice ankle rock too. Look at that. Very nice. Side to side, and the foot can swivel, of course. So that's his articulation. I think definitely very good for such a tiny little action figure. Again, like, these figures are roughly the size and price point of a core class Transformers figure, right? This guy coming in around $13, and you get 3 accessories and a really nicely articulated and incredibly painted action figure. I've done something to his stability here. A little hard to pose him at the moment, but definitely does stand very nicely. So then let's get into accessories. Of course, the main reason actually I picked him up was for this Dark Star Saber, which is just molded in black plastic, but it kind of has like the handle's actually painted in a nice shiny black plastic. I think it's the handle that's painted, or maybe it's the blade that's painted. Can't really tell. If it's the matte paint, maybe it's the matte black that's painted. And then we have this nice white touch in the center. And it's not too warped, especially, I mean, for the size, it's not that noticeable. But definitely very nicely painted. And then, of course, if you're wondering, can you integrate him into the Mandalorian? Of course you can. Have the Mandalorian wielding the sword of his people, the Dark Star Saber. And that definitely looks awesome on him, for sure. And again, I have reviewed this guy on the channel, and All Time Toy Store also has him in stock, so please be sure to check out that video if you haven't already. And then his cape comes with this guy. It's nice flexible plastic, and it's nice matte black paint on the outside, or maybe matte black plastic, I think, and then red paint on the inside. Looks very nice. Got a peg hole there, and that just attaches to his back. Nice and simple, and it doesn't really impede articulation at all because of that flexible plastic. Then he also does have, which continues to amaze me with these tiny figures, a little gun stored in this holster. There's this little blaster that stores in that holster. And this thing is fully painted in a gunmetal color, suitable for a gun. Super tiny, and he can, of course, hold that in his trigger hand. You can hold it in the other hand too, but of course there is no trigger finger in the other hand. This one you can actually get his pointer finger into that slot there. You can have him wielding his blaster. Ready to take down the Mandalorian, and of course, that Dark Star Saber. Oops, man, just knocked out the gun. These guys are definitely, due to their tiny size, a bit tricky to pose, I will say. But they are amazing. And just the amount of detail that they have, I think, is incredible. So there is Moff Gideon from Star Wars The Mandalorian. I think these 3 3/4 inch figures in the vintage collection are super awesome. There's also the retro collection, which is the same size, of course, but it's based on the original Kenner figures in terms of articulation and paint. So it's meant to resemble those original figures, whereas these are meant to be like a scaled down Black Series figure. And I mean, it just looks pretty awesome with the Mandalorian. There's also kind of like a height comparison there, you know, roughly the same size. Mando's a little bit taller, I think largely just because of his helmet armor there. But yeah, definitely another fantastic release from the vintage collection. Please be sure to check them out in the links in the description below, and pick them up if you're a fan of The Mandalorian. Thanks for watching. Again, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks.